Hi everybody, thanks for joining us on the page Conscious, where we look at issues past, present and future, and we unpack those to bring about awareness and consciousness, and we examine the narratives that have been prescribed and dictated, and we aim to find truth, solutions, growth, but most of all, the transformation of a people and emancipation of the mind. Join us. Be a part of the conversation. Share your perspectives and give us your feedback. Conscious. We'll be right back.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Conscious. Today I want to look at the land of the brave and the free. For whom? For every time that there's been an incident of whites or white police against blacks or black men, the white society has said, that's an isolated incident. When Black Lives Matter was formed, whites became dismissive and said, all lives matter. And for sure. But today Conscious wants to know, how many incidents of crime against blacks will it take before whites see that racism is real? That it is a clear and present danger, no matter how passive, subtle, covert, overt, or structural, and cannot be dismissed as being isolated. How long will racism continue in America or the rest of the world before whites stop becoming defensive and fragile when they are called out? When will racial stereotyping, racial profiling, implicit bias stop? When will blacks stop fearing just breathing on a daily basis? And why should blacks have to be careful not to make themselves a target in the presence of the police, while whites continue to be privileged in their lifestyle? Why do blacks have to play the role of perfect nigger? Do not question, do not challenge massa, just relax and be calm, do not raise your voices, and dare not eyeball massa, you uppity nigger. The myriad of named and unnamed blacks who have been killed and abused on the cry list cannot be numbered. But whites, white privilege, white rage, white fragility cannot say they do not know. What we know and what they know is that the pockets of blacks that have been protesting and looting and rioting have reached their boiling point of the more than 400 years of suppressed anger, resentment, and bitterness. And they are sending a loud and clear message for an uprising against injustice and racism. What is happening all over America at the trigger of this blatant taking of a man's life with glaring indifference in the plain sight of all who watched is the dormant psychic of the black spirit that is saying, no more. Enough is enough. And while there may be those educated condemnation about the looting and the rioting, let's not misunderstand that the subconscious and traumatic psyche is replaying the disdain, the disregard, and the destruction that has been meted out to blacks for more than 400 years because they were considered as chattels, properties. And so in stark contrast, the damages and the destruction to buildings and the taking of properties at will may be the black subconscious and latent resurrection of the trauma of the past that is saying, we do not care about what you hold dear. And history shows that whites have looted and kept their knees at the necks and backs of the blacks for centuries. Now, sparked by this one too many chattel moves, blacks are pushing back and are saying, we will take what matters to you, and that is whites' property and their earning potential. Meanwhile, whites are saying, that's not the way to go about it. That's not the way we do things. True, but that's what blacks have been saying for more than 400 years. Who paid attention? President Trump's unbecoming leadership, his rhetoric and handling of the situation right now is only adding fuel to fire. But he is right about one thing, that blacks are now prepared to, quote, run over you because they are tired of being, quote, dominated. Conscious hopes that Americans, black Americans, are seeing that the system and the constitution under which they find themselves were designed by whites and is doing exactly what it had intended for decades. So let's be clear, for example, if slave patrols were designed to capture the slaves, those slaves who dared to want to be free, what are the police doing? The police, like the slave patrols, are hunting blacks, black men in particular. Like the slave patrols, they have liberty to do and treat at will without being held accountable. This is hyper policing, which is equivalent to slave patrolling. The legal and justice systems are designed to use and control black people into what white concept of law and order is. Blacks must be kept in line and confined just as they were on the slave ships, which equals imprisonment and death row. The financial and the real estate systems have been redlined, and blacks have always been denied equal opportunities to improve their earning potentials on a fair, playing field. Their health and housing have never been equal. And in a society that functions on the basis of adherence to law and order, whites have not adhered to those laws. I read a book called David and Goliath by Gladwell, and in it he talks about the concept of legitimacy and says that it requires 3 core principles for it to work. One is that there must be agreed principles. 2, those who are enforcing the principles must be fair. And 3, everyone in the society must be treated fairly according to the principles. Black people have never been treated fairly. They have been betrayed for centuries by the same people who sought to set the rules and the laws over them. Whites fear now that a black unity and a reprisal may cause turmoil, and so white silence condones the supremacy. Conscious is suggesting that the idea that blacks are not human beings for centuries is irrational and insane. Whites have dismissed blacks for years, but blacks are now saying that the white point of view will no longer dominate them. And blacks who have been seen as misfits and underdogs are now willing to face the challenges. From my heart to yours, this is Conscious Talk. Brothers and sisters, what is happening now though is a divine move of God. And we have to come into solidarity. Bob Marley said it best a long time ago. Until there is no first class or second class citizens, until one race is not superior and another inferior, until the color of a man's skin is no more significant than the color of his eyes, we have to watch it. Walk good, one blood, one love.